May 25, 2025, a $13 million drug ship was intercepted by a U.S. destroyer on the Caribbean Sea. The USS Gravely and a Coast Guard law enforcement team transformed a nameless contact into one of the most valuable busts in the region this year. But it wasn't only about the cocaine. The real lesson is what the operation reveals about forward interdiction, strategy at sea, and why the Navy is no longer simply about fighting wars. The operation changed everything, and it began as nothing more than a faint contact, a slow-moving speck sliding across the radars of the USS Gravely. In waters where freighters, tankers, fishing trawlers, and coastwise cargo ships constantly crisscrossed, this one looked different. It showed no flag, no painted name, and, most telling of all, no AIS beacon. Automatic identification system transponders are standard worldwide, used to broadcast a vessel's identity, course, and speed to other ships and to coastal authorities. When a ship runs dark through some of the busiest lanes in the Caribbean and then refuses to answer radio hails, suspicion rises quickly. The first question for Gravely's watch officers was simple and dangerous. Was this just an old fishing boat ignoring the rules? Or was it the kind of vessel that carried tons of powder hidden beneath barrels of diesel and layers of tarps? The crew opened hailing circuits again and again, shifting frequencies, alternating between English and Spanish. Silence. No answer over the bridge-to-bridge radio. No flashing lamp. No recognition whistle. At night, a vessel might miss a call, but under bright Caribbean daylight, the repeated silence meant something more deliberate. Ships with nothing to hide normally respond without hesitation. Here, silence hung on the air like a wall. The command center weighed options. Dismiss it and risk a cartel freighter sliding past. Pursue it and risk burning scarce resources chasing a harmless target. In counter-drug patrols, judgment is everything. Each move draws on flight hours, fuel, and time that can never be reclaimed. Gravely carried the sensors to probe deeper. Its spy radar tracked every change in course. Optical cameras locked on the tiny hull, recording high-definition video of a boat that gave away almost nothing about itself. Through secure data links, Command fused this information with surveillance feeds from above. A maritime patrol aircraft, flying hundreds of miles overhead, swooped its sensors across the suspected track line. Satellites confirmed position and heading, checking whether the vessel appeared in any registry of known merchant shipping. The networked picture was clear. No legitimate record existed. In a sea usually crowded with legal operators, this boat looked like a ghost. And that is where the partnership became vital. A Navy destroyer patrols and tracks, but without Coast Guard authority on board, it cannot legally board or seize. Gravely had embarked Law Enforcement Detachment 401, a team trained specifically for interdictions on the high seas. These men and women were the bridge between warship and courtroom, giving the destroyer a badge in addition to its missiles. With them embarked, the question shifted from can we to should we? The deliberation moved through channels with calculated speed. Command weighed intelligence, consulted task force headquarters, and reviewed standing orders under Campaign Martillo, the multinational effort that pushes smuggler traffic off the board as early as possible. Minutes stretched, but the answer finally arrived. The ship was authorized. On the warship's bridge, the moment felt like a trigger being pulled. What had been routine watch standing became an operation locked into motion. The captain and operations officer knew there was no turning back once authorization came down. To disengage after taking that first step would mean losing credibility and allowing a suspect to slip away into the maze of islands, ports, and coastlines stretching north toward the United States. Like that first step in every journey, the decision charted a course they could not reverse. The destroyer shifted posture, engines steady, ready to launch a boarding team into waters where firefights sometimes broke out in seconds. Now, the small dot was no longer a questionable return on a radar screen. It became a named and tracked target of interest, priority for every sensor and every watch. Sailors who had been running standard patrol circuits now shifted into interdiction roles. Logs were sharpened, communications encrypted, chain of command messages typed and clipped. What had been a routine afternoon watch evolved into the sharp end of the war on narcotics. The metal speck creeping across the funnel, as analysts called that smuggling corridor, had transformed into an active case. But spotting a suspect is one challenge. Closing the distance, launching small boats, and climbing swiftly onto an unknown vessel, armed men waiting, cargo concealed, that takes the mission from intelligence gathering into direct confrontation. And that was the moment looming ahead for Gravely's Coast Guard detachment. The destroyer slowed as a rigid-hulled inflatable boat splashed into the water, carrying LEDET 401 toward the target. Spray hit their vests as engines roared, every man and woman armed and geared, rifles at the ready, body cameras recording. For them, this wasn't just another patrol, it was a visit, board, search, and seizure mission, the kind they spent months training for. The objective was clear: secure the vessel, identify all people on board, and search for concealed cargo. But no matter how controlled the plan looked on paper, they knew the danger was real. Any hidden weapon, any panicked move by the crew could trigger a shootout on the open sea within seconds. Closing the gap, the inflatable circled the hull. The boarding team shouted commands in English and Spanish, warning the crew to stay visible and compliant. The suspects raised their hands, hesitant, their expressions giving away that they understood the force standing against them. In moments, grappling ladders rose against steel, boots pushed off the boat's tubes, and operators climbed quickly to the deck. Rifles aimed into every blind corner. One team established cover positions while others cleared stairs and hatches. The procedure was methodical, sharp, and rehearsed countless times. Dominate the vessel first, search later. The suspects, 3 men, stayed still as ordered. They were placed on deck, hands restrained, guarded by armed operators trained to watch every move with intensity. It was clear from their silence they recognized the imbalance. No resistance, no pleas, just subdued acceptance in the face of overwhelming authority. Only after the deck was fully secure did the team start the second phase, moving cautiously through compartments, flashlights cutting into tight corners, compartments unsealed one by one. That was when they found the first sign. A bulkhead sounded hollow when struck, the tone different from the metal around it. Smugglers use these tricks often: false walls, extra panels, hidden voids. Tools pried open seams, and inside sat bundles wrapped in thick plastic and burlap. Layer after layer of waterproof material shielded the packages, designed to survive weeks at sea. Even then, nothing could be announced yet. Until a package opened, the contraband remained technically unconfirmed. The team slit one brick open. Inside, compressed powder. The outer surface bore a logo. A bold green S cartels mark their loads not as decoration, but as brand and guarantee. It is proof of origin, a way to measure reliability in illegal markets. Other bales bore different stamps, each symbol linking the cocaine to specific groups deeper in the network. With this confirmed, the operation shifted again, from tactical boarding into painstaking evidence control. LEDET training included not only force tactics, but detailed crime scene discipline. Each bale pulled into open view was photographed in place before moving. Operators logged every weight, every tag, every identifying mark, all while balancing on a rocking hull. Digital entries went into secured devices. Nothing was left undocumented because any gap in the record could later unravel in court. Even the suspects were photographed against the background of the ship, logged with time and date, a step to bind their presence to the crime scene. The search ended with 19 bales hauled into documented custody, around 860 pounds in total. In dollar terms, the cocaine was worth more than $13 million on U.S. streets. Every operator there knew what that meant. This was not just another fishing vessel, it was a piece of a billion-dollar pipeline stopped cold in the Caribbean. What moments before was silent suspicion had become solid proof stacked on the deck. Even in triumph, the mission didn't pause. Seizure at sea is only half the battle. Without airtight documentation, without the unbroken chain of custody that defense lawyers cannot pierce, the traffickers could still walk free. From that moment forward, Gravely wasn't only a destroyer guarding seas. It became a floating courtroom, responsible for preserving the evidence against every possible challenge soon to come in U.S. courts. The cocaine was stacked, photographed, and confirmed, but the truth is that seizing it was only half the fight. The next phase was quieter, less dramatic, but just as dangerous for the case. The legal chain that turned a bust into a conviction. This was the part that most people never see. The hidden war fought not with rifles or fast boats, but with numbers, forms, and airtight procedures. A single mistake here could cancel out the hours of surveillance, the risky boarding, and the evidence piled on deck. For $13 million worth of narcotics, the paperwork was as powerful as the guns. Every bale pulled from the hidden compartment had to be processed like a piece of courtroom evidence within minutes of discovery. That meant weighing each one with portable scales, recording the totals in real time, and photographing marks before seals were broken. The distinctive green S stamped on the cocaine wasn't just a cartel signature. It was now a detail that prosecutors could later point to in indictments. From that moment on, those symbols were bound to federal records. The bales moved into thick evidence bags, sealed with numbered tags that could be tracked, and each number entered into a logbook. Digital devices stored copies of the log, checked against handwritten notes, which officers signed with date and time to remove any doubt later about when and where the cocaine was handled. Imagine the difficulty of doing all this while standing on the rolling deck of a warship hundreds of miles from any port. Wind rocked the vessel, crew members shifted to keep balance, but the scales still needed an accurate read. If a defense lawyer later suggested that a single pound had vanished at sea, the Navy and Coast Guard records needed to disprove it instantly. That was why digital entries were encrypted, backed up, and transmitted through secure channels to higher command. This wasn't bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy. It was the first barrier against traffickers walking free on claims of tampered evidence. The suspects themselves became part of that archive. Once restrained, each was photographed, documented, and matched to the interdicted vessel. They were not just anonymous men caught at sea. They were identified individuals placed under legal custody with time-stamped records. These files would later accompany them into federal court, binding them to both the ship and the cargo found aboard it. The defendants could deny ownership of the drugs, but they could not erase the photos of themselves surrounded by bales stamped with symbols linked to known cartels. That was why LEDET 401's job went beyond security. It was about turning raw detention into admissible evidence. Even the vessel itself became a question of evidence. Some ships are scuttled after seizures, destroyed to prevent reuse by traffickers. Others are preserved intact, photographed, stripped of contraband, and sometimes transported for examination during trial. Every option has to be judged against the requirements of the investigation. On Gravely's case, the ship itself added context. It was a smuggling tool, concealed to carry hundreds of pounds of cocaine. How that vessel was handled became another entry in the growing mountain of logged details designed to keep traffickers from attacking the case later in court. The Gravely's interdiction proved that a destroyer is not only a combat vessel, but also a frontline actor in a quieter war, one fought with evidence logs and courtroom precision. Intercepting that $13.65 million in cocaine meant stopping money that would have fueled weapons, bribes, and violence across multiple countries. Each bale pulled from the hold was another link broken in the pipeline that feeds organized crime worldwide. Forward interdiction works because it pushes the fight into open water before drugs reach the streets. If this changed how you see destroyers, let me know in the comments and subscribe today.